Greetings, everybody. Welcome to DEFCON Aftermath. We're taking a look at 5 more defenders versus 5 more controllers with 5 more support sets, trying to figure out which of the classic archetypes here is the superior supporter of your team in the City of Heroes. We are going to be taking a look at our next power set today, and we started by looking at Cold Domination with Shimmer and Falcon. If you haven't seen those vids, you got to go over to the channel there and check it out. And in that first round, we had a victor declared after looking at upwards of 10 different major stats. And so here in second round, we want to see if that first round is true. And that first round, of course, is that Shimmer, the controller, edged out our defender, which mirrored what I'd seen in the original DEFCON 5 series. So we're trying to figure out, is this still going to hold true for our next mashup, next lineup, next power-up? Empathy? Is it true? Empathy, hey, what's that? Empathy. It's going to give you the ability to heal and aid allies as well as yourself. I kind of hate that it sort of just makes empathy sound like it is like only all about healing, because it does a bunch more than that. Yes, it does have healing abilities as 3 of its main powers: the aura, the heal other, the absorb pain. But the rest of the stuff is not specifically healing, right? You've got a resurrection in there, you've got a mez protection in there, you got a big old boost of defense and damage and to hit with fortitude. You got a couple of auras for maintaining endurance and regeneration. And you got an adrenaline boost, big ol' endurance regen, and a slow resistance buff. So it's very strong at buffing more than just, bringing back hit points in a reactive style. There's a lot of preemptive buffing. There's a lot of on-the-fly buffing. And yeah, it also does healing. So let's go ahead and take a look at this set by the numbers before we get into the characters we're going to be lining up here in this competition. So I've got our old friend, the City of Data here. We're going to take a look at this first, this website, and we're going to go over the specifics, the numbers for our defender, for our controller, with empathy as our starting point. All right, zoom in a little bit there so we can see it better, but let's go ahead through this. Now, I think overall empathy is probably one of the easiest sets to understand because most of the powers are pretty much cut and dry. They do a thing, and that's all they do, which is also kind of maybe what some people might find them a little bit lackluster or boring. I mean, I kind of fall in that camp. Empathy is not my favorite. Not so much because of, it's a healing set and I don't want to be a healer, that kind of thing, but it's just limited in what it does overall. Like, there are a lot of different powers in it, yes, but you're just a buffer, right? I mean, you have 9 powers here that are all ally targeting, with the exception of 3 of them, the 2 auras and your healing aura. So your 3 auras have effects on yourself. Everything else is allies only, and a lot of these are reactive buffs. So it's not like you shield up, buff up at the start of a fight, and then I can go focus on my, secondary or primary if I'm playing a controller. Instead, no, you have to be Johnny on the spot with a lot of this stuff and constantly be ally focused, staring at your team window and clicking stuff in response to things that are happening. Now, maybe the argument is, well, that's if you're a bad empath, you have to do that. But I think it's true statement that you are going to be way more focused on what your team is, looking like than what you're actually doing on the screen fighting enemies. As a matter of fact, you could pretty much not attack or blast or whatever at all as a defender. You can 100% focus on this. The other issue I have with it is that I think it makes your team lazy, because I've seen it happen. I've experienced it where you're throwing out a lot of green, a lot of healing, and your teammate thinks, wow, this is great, we can survive anything, we're just going to keep charge because we're constantly not dying. But the problem is at some point you reach your threshold as an empath of just being able to keep up, and constantly reacting. It's a very stressful, high uh, endurance, high, focus task, and you can easily just lose it. And then the team just shatters at that point, or somebody just gets way out ahead and gets themselves killed, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's why I'm not a big fan of empathy overall. I like the buffs, don't get me wrong, but it's just it creates a mindset amongst the players that either A, all you do is heal, and then all defenders do is heal. Anybody who's got a support set is a healer. And then the other thing is, again, sort of this lazy encouragement where, the teammates don't seem to feel like they need to do anything responsible to not take all the damn damage and instead just rely upon you to heal their ass every 5 minutes or 5 seconds as the worst case scenario. Anyway, let's take a look at the numbers here. What's going on? Heal other. Like I said, here's a pretty cut and dry, basic example of a power that empathy is chock full of, right? You heal other, right? So when your ally takes damage, you throw a single target heal on them, and that's pretty much all it's going to do, right? Single target ally, can't use it on yourself. That's one of the big problems. You can't use most of the stuff on yourself. And you're going to do base healing 262 and some change. Now, I believe those numbers are different on the controller side. So I want to pop over and look at the controller number just to confirm my suspicion. Yeah, so we got 230 versus 262. So that's what, about a 10% difference between the two, I think. So, if that's 100%, this is 90% on the controller side. It's not a huge difference. And this is something that I think we're going to be able to see and showcase in this study, right? We've got 262 versus 230, and we get to the main question here is, does that matter? Does an extra 10% more healing make a difference? I'm hoping so, and that's why I want to run these 801s that I'm doing for this test, because this is really going to push the envelope of survivability. So if you're going to see these small differences making a difference, that would be when it's going to happen. It's not going to be, from what I'm able to tell, in the standard 54 times 8 content that you'll find in radios and tips and paper missions. It's just not tough enough. But these 801s, these AE missions, these incarnate level missions, these are the ones that I think are gonna determine this difference. But I want to keep my eye on this as I'm doing more of these. In cold domination, we had a similar situation, in better numbers on the defender. And at the end of the day, it wasn't those extra 10% here and there that made the defender better, because they ultimately were defeated by the controller. What I'm seeing is it's not these buff numbers that is the difference. And this is still a little bit premature, but what I'm seeing is this is rearing its head again, just like it did in DEFCON 5, the original series. The pet's damage output, and in turn their ability to sort of tank and pull some aggro, seems to be the bigger difference. This is a significant source of output from the controllers, because they're doing damage, they're soaking up some damage, they're pulling some aggro, they have some controls, they have some debuffs. They're really an extra player on the team. Now they are, kind of mindless, but then again, some of the pugs I get on my teams are kind of similar. But anyway, they're like an extra body out there, so they do contribute. And the controller pets from their primary set, they have relatively an 100% uptime. They're out all the time unless they get killed. And the defender doesn't have that tool. So the defender needs to not only have those extra 10% buffs on their teams and keep their allies going, but they also need to make up for the pet contribution. And right now the 10% or whatever it is not cutting it. That's what I'm looking for. Anyway, back to the sets here. Healing aura. We've got a 100% chance of healing aura around yourself and others. So it's about half the strength of the single target. So your single target 262, your aura is 133. Let's see what the actual dimensions are, the radius on this power. Let's see, what is it? It's 25 radius and max target's 255. So huge radius, You know, you're never gonna hit that target cap, even probably on a league. I mean, come on, give me a break. So this is ridiculous, 255. You know, I guess if everybody has pets on the league, but yeah, that's huge. It's gross. It's overkill. So really, this is irrelevant. It's 25-foot radius though, so it is nice. You're gonna heal pretty much everybody on your team by clicking this. It's just the strength of it is only half of what your single target is. And let me compare that to the controller version, because again, this would be a good metric to look at. 117 versus 133. So again, it looks like it's about a 10% difference between the two heals. Uh, is that going to matter that you're getting 16 fewer healing from that aura versus the defender aura? I don't think so. I mean, if you're dying because of 16 hit points, it's probably really bad luck. So anyway, I don't know. Absorb pain. Here's your big boy heal. So absorb pain. You throw out massive healing, 669. So this is like a triple strength heal from your baseline, right? So you've got pretty much this. Your heal other, basic heal, heal other. We'll call that 1x. Your heal aura, that's half x. It's half the strength. And now we have the absorb pain, and this is triple x, triple x, 3x, right? It's triple the strength. The problem with this power, and I'm not sure why it's there. I mean, I get it's in the name, absorb pain, but it does basically it damages you and prevents you from getting your health back. So you go from full HP to, you know, like redlining. I think it's more damage than 108. And then the bigger problem is this: you can't heal yourself. Is it 20 seconds? Like this is gross, right? Like that's a huge long time. And now here's the problem with that. So, you know, I can get sort of the exchange, right? I'm giving you a huge heal. I'm bringing you back from the brink of death. I'm taking some damage because of it. I'm absorbing your pain. But this is just cruelty. Massive regen debuff. You can't get hit points back for 20 seconds. This, my friends, is where an 801 will absolutely destroy somebody who does this to themselves. So in the 801, we have like no mercy. You can't afford to redline your own ass. I mean, forget it. You're gonna be like, you're pretty much getting one shot as it is in this content. So to bring yourself to the brink is ridiculous. I don't know. I don't like it. I've never liked it. And then here's the other problem beyond all that is your allies go into a panic. Well, at least your allies that give a damn, but you know, they panic because all of a sudden their healer, right? Their supporter, their defender, controller, whatever, is suddenly redline health. And everybody turns around like, oh my God, what happened? Who's attacking them? And it wasn't anybody, it was you did it to yourself. And then to make it even worse on top of that, your allies decide I need to heal them. And they come running over and throwing heals at you or clicking rebirth or whatever. But you are immune. You are unaffected by their stupid heals. It's ridiculous how like punishing this power is. I don't get the upside personally. I mean, can I just click my heal other twice? You know, and it's not like this thing is super fast recharge, is it? Let me double check on that. The recharge is 15 seconds. Okay, what's my recharge on heal other? Heal other recharge is 4 seconds. I mean, Jesus, come on, guys. Developers, please. It's stuff like this that I would like to see, I don't know if it's necessarily fixed, but, you know, if I can sit there and click heal other 4 times, and remember, these are 1x healing, why would I do absorb pain? Right? Because it's triple healing. I can just click this 4 times and get the same effect. I can get more. Yeah, the endurance cost is probably worse. Right, because the endurance is 13. So obviously 4 times 13, that's 52 endurance. For more healing, 52 endurance. Or I can spend, oh gosh, I'm going to do the math here. I can do, endurance is like nothing. So I guess there's the one win that absorb pain is giving you. It costs no endurance. You can throw it out there with a sliver of health left and do it. So it's pretty much you are like committing suicide in the 8-1 if you use this power, I believe, in my opinion. Anyway, that's Absorb Pain. And I'm assuming the controller version is similarly 10% or whatever. Yeah, 588. So it's about 10% again. You know, so about the same thing. Resurrect, this is again obvious power. It's kind of in the name. You resurrect an ally, and they're going to have full endurance and full heal. I think that so it brings them up to max HP. I'm not exactly sure what heal damage means. I know there's some like healing counts as damage or something like that, but it's like positive damage the way that it's set up in the system to recognize. Like damage is negative healing, and healing is positive damage or negative damage, I guess is the way you want to think about it. But anyway, res brings somebody back to full, costs 26 endurance. Now here's something that, you know, absorb pain costs hardly anything. Why does endurance cost a quarter? Or sorry, the resurrection costs a quarter. Maybe this should be low because then I might actually want to take this power and heal somebody back up to full. But I'm a big anti-res person, especially when they don't do anything other than res you. You know, what else? I could pick something else that's gonna help me keep you alive. Then all right, you're dead now. I'll just slip you a wakey. All right, there's resurrect. Now we get into the more variety and useful kind of stuff because here, a couple heals, great. Now we get into stuff that's a little more flavorful, a little more purposeful and useful. Clear Mind, this is your Mez protection that you can give to your allies. It does not help you, and it also does not splash on your allies like a shield does. So if you're throwing shields out there, when you saw me using my cold domination, shields, if you target one person with it, it puts a shield on them, but then it radiates, it splashes out and hits all other allies within the range and also shields them. So one click will shield everybody on your team. That's not true of Mez protection like Clear Mind. Every ally needs a click. This is another problem with playing Empathy, in my opinion, is if your allies need to be Mez protected, depends on what your allies are, but if they're squishies without Mez protection, you got to sit here and click, and buff everybody. That's going to take some time because it's 4 seconds on the recharge. It's going to take endurance because it's 5. Let's say I have to buff 4 people, right? That's going to take me 16 seconds. It's going to take me 20 endurance to do this, almost 21. That's a lot of commitment, and it's kind of, a pain in the ass. And then if you have your single target heals, like absorb pain, heal other, right? You need to find your ally, click on them, spend endurance to keep them alive. So at this stage, you've only got one thing that helps yourself, your healing aura, and it's the only thing that's going to heal you. It's not going to do anything else for you. You don't have any way to Mez protect yourself. So this is a pain in the ass, and this is also the other reason about your teammates and why they're important, and why they need to play smart, because you need to click on them and hit them. So if they're charging ahead without waiting because you're healing them and keeping them alive, and then their Clear Mind wears off, and then they get Mez, and they get freaking killed, and you're trying to chase after them and heal them, and bring them back up with Clear Mind and resurrect. It's just a freaking nightmare scenario. Oh, and then the other thing about resurrect that's a problem while I'm bitching about this, it says targeted ally res. How many times you guys out there have used a res on somebody who then uses a wakey at the same time, and then they don't even get your res, or you res somebody who dies and they don't accept it or something like that, and then you just wasted it. There's all these like downsides. So anyway, a lot of things I don't like about Empathy, and really the only reason I built a couple is because I wanted to sort of break the mold and do some crazy stuff with them. So hopefully you'll see that with the 2 characters I've chosen to showcase here. But other than that, I wouldn't normally play this set. All right, so anyway, got Clear Mind. What's it going to do? Mez protection. So stuns, holds, sleeps, immobilize, fear, confuse. I think covers everything. It doesn't cover soft control stuff like KB. It doesn't have KB protection. Slowing, it doesn't have any slow protection. debuffs. It doesn't have any debuff protection. The only other thing it does, and this is another stupid thing, man, I'm bashing this set. Plus perception. This was added as a PvP thing because back in the day there was no perception boost on Clear Mind. You didn't need it. I can't really think of too many enemies that even had minus perception or had stealth, maybe like Knives of Artemis or whatever. So anyway, there was no plus perception in the game. But when PvP came out and those evil stalkers with their hide were just mopping up everybody in PvP zone, the tears were flowing from blue side like you would not believe. And so there needed to be some way to provide a counter to the stalker's hide. And what better way than to give the beloved healer of blue side, Empath, because everybody was playing Empathy back then. You gave them Clear Mind, which they had already, and you threw plus perception. So now stalkers became pretty much useless because everybody could see them because the pocket empath would just buff the blasters and buff the scrappers and whatever else was in the zone, and the stalkers could be seen, and then that was, you were getting mopped up. And meanwhile, there was no plus perception on any of the red side stuff because you didn't have empathy red side and nobody had plus perception. So anybody like a scrapper using stealth or invisibility, you couldn't see them, they'd go and kick your ass. But that was fine. That was perfectly okay. Anyway, devs hated red side so bad back then. It was sad. So other than that, now it's a little bit more useful because there is more stealth in the game. And especially on these 801s, there's a lot of stealth foes running around there. All right, what's next? I don't think the controller stuff is any different. Let me just go and check. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it's stronger Mez protection because controllers know Mez. Okay, it's not. This was interesting because I could have sworn I remember something. I forget which set it was. If it was, yeah, I think it was in Cold Domination. There was some power, I thought, that had Mez whatever, and it was stronger for the controller. At least it was on City of Data. But the Defender version is giving you 13 Mez protection and a 540 perception. This is 10 and 400. So this is a stronger Mez protection. But when's the last time you ran into enemies throwing 13 mag controls out there? It never happens in the regular game. Maybe in the 801 there is some stacking holding going on or controls going on, depending on the luck of the draw, what enemies you face, what power sets they have. But it's not normal. Fortitude. Here's a really great power for Empathy. Now here's the problem. Empathy has to wait so long in its kit to get the good stuff. You know, you got all this heal is your first three. Res, Clear Mind. Okay, when do I actually get something useful and good that really helps my team? Fortitude's one of those powers. You boost defense, you boost damage, you boost it to hit. So you're turning everybody into, I don't want to say blaster level damage, but you're giving whoever you fire this on, now not everybody, it's a single target again, but you give them essentially like a build up kind of a power here, right? You can boost the to hit with set bonuses and stuff, so you can turn somebody into, you know, like plus, you know, whatever, 30% to hit, 30% damage. That's sizable increase. And you can give them some good defense on top of that. And you can augment the defense with some slotting. So, you know, you could theoretically give somebody 25% defense, I don't know, 25% to hit, 30% damage with some decent slotting on this power. That's going to turn any one person into, you know, God mode light, really. It'll be harder to hit them, and they're going to hit a lot harder. And if you can get this out on multiple targets, which, you know, slotting will do, that's going to be very useful because the duration's 120 seconds. That's sizable, 2 minutes. The recharge is 60 out of the box. So you can get this on 2 people without any recharge slotting. You put some decent recharge slotting in here, you can get that down to, I don't know, 45, 30 seconds, whatever. So you can get this out on 3 targets easily. 4 targets if you're really committed to buffing. So you can get this out on a third or, you know, half the team, you know, without trying too hard to do it. I would say this is very reasonable to get 3 of these out at any given time and getting good numbers like this. So you should be able to buff 3 people pretty easily. I think the question becomes is who do you target on this one? Do you target a squishy because of the defense, Or do you target sort of one of your damage dealers to put them over the top, really spike some damage? Or you throw it on, let's say, another lower damage ally to bring them up to, kind of blaster levels of attacking. You've got some options with this one. I've seen a lot of empaths play it where they always put it on like the blaster only because you got to get that blaster damage cap. Meanwhile, I'm always thinking, well, why not put it on the defender, the dominator, the corruptor to give them blastery levels of damage? Now I got two blasters. Why do I got to make one person god mode when I can kind of make two or three people? Anyway, just want to check the numbers here if it's any. Yeah, so it definitely is weaker for the controller. 11 and a quarter, 25 and 15. So it's about a 5% difference between the two. On those numbers, it looks like Fortitude, yeah, 15, 31, 18. Yeah, that's about 5%, not even 4%, something like that. So it's not a huge difference between those two archetypes for Fortitude. Then the auras, recovery aura, 200% recovery. I told you these powers are pretty much just straightforward, right? You click this aura, everybody around you gets a 200% recovery. I wish it did some more stuff. Like maybe it should add just endurance as well. Or how about like an endurance debuff resistance? Is that too much to ask? You could do a little bit of resist. Just to give empathy a little bit more spark, something unique about it. Or maybe it like ticks plus endurance over time. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Just give it something more useful than what it's got. Same idea with regeneration aura. It's going to do exactly what you think. You're going to click this 500% regen. The other thing you want to know is that these two auras are high cost, so 5 or 26 endurance. So you start clicking a bunch of these buffs when you walk in to the the map or whatever. You're gonna blow through most of your endurance if people hang around for you to do your RAs, fortitude, clear mind, everybody, right? You're gonna spend a bunch of your endurance. So you need to be endurance savvy with your builds because you're going to be using it not just at the door, but you can be using these reactive buffs as you're going. So you don't want to run out of endurance. And then, of course, radius is pretty huge as well, 25 feet. So that's pretty awesome. Let me check the controller version of these. Are they also 500%? Yeah, 500% regen, 200% recovery. Let me just, was it 200% on the... Yeah, so two are recovery. So they're identical to each other. Why is that the case? Why isn't the Defender version stronger? Whatever. And then how come the regen doesn't give you like some resistance to regen debuffs or healing debuffs or something like that? You could throw something like that in there to give it a little more spice. And then the last power in the set is Adrenaline Boost. I'm not sure this is really a tier 9 worthy power, at least in the modern game anymore. You get endurance, regen, recharge, and then sort of the token resistance to slow. But the recharge, check this out, 300-second recharge on a single target power that does that? Really? Is this such a game tipping power that it needs to be on a 5-minute recharge? I don't know. 10 endurance. We've already got recovery and regen from your auras, so this isn't really doing much. Okay, now I'm going to give somebody 1,000% recovery if I get them with my auras and adrenaline boost, and they're going to have 1,000% regen. Okay, great. I mean, when is that really going to factor into a practical game? Yeah, maybe if you're in the 801s and somebody's debuffing your regen or recovery, some of the incarnate level stuff can do some nasty regen and recovery debuffing, but for most of the other game, this is useless. It's not going to do anything. Recharge, okay, that's nice. 100% recharge boosting. That's definitely going to help somebody. Throw down a Dominator, let's say, right? You can turn a Dominator into a freaking god between all these buffs. It's regen here, recovery, recharge. You got the damage, the to hit, the defense that you had from Fortitude. Clear Mind was giving you the Mez protection. I'm also liking this, you throw it on like another Defender or something like that. And then the resistance to slow stuff, this is decent, but I really would like, maybe this should be an aura a splash. I don't know, shorter recharge. If you want, you can lower the buffing strength. To me, here's what it is. Empathy is a great set with lots of buffs on a small team. If you were on a small team, which is what I'm running with these 801s, I'm going to be on a team of five teammates, so I can't use any of this stuff on myself. So I've only got 4 other people to worry about. So with only 4 allies, I can get this on, one of them. What's the duration? 90 seconds. So yeah, you cut this down to, I don't know, 150 seconds or something like that, practically, from all, practicality speaking. So you're going to only have one at a time with this. You can get 3 people forwarded. You can get everybody clear-minded. You can get your regen and recovery auras going on the whole team. So I think if you're on a small team, you click all those buffs, and then you can focus on healing and supporting those teammates that are taking damage at that point. Because really nothing you're throwing out there is going to prevent people from taking damage, aside from fortitude with the defense, and even that defense isn't over the top going to protect them. But you're going to have to heal because that's all you got for protecting people. It's, regen. I guess you put enough regen, you want it to heal somebody, but that's only one target. So yeah, that is empathy in a nutshell. And I just want to double check the numbers here. See if they're different or not. 800, 500, 80%. So again, adrenaline boost is the same between a controller and a defender. Why? So really it's those last 3 powers, the best powers, are the same controller and defenders. But meanwhile, all the other stuff, you get that 10%, 5% difference. Whoopee ding dong. Defenders are getting shortchanged, in my opinion. Okay, so there you go. That is empathy, big picture wise. Now, hey, who are we going to line up in this battle of empaths? Who is my controller? Who is my defender? And what are their complementary sets? What are the themes? What's the idea going on here? So, drum roll, please. Boom. We've got on the blue side, in the blue corner, defenders, we have Ankh, empathy, water blast, soul mastery. What do those 3 power sets possibly have in common with one another? That can't possibly work. Frisson Sensate. You have seen this guy if you watched any of my Zero to Hero series, and if you haven't seen that one, again, you got to go over to my channel. You got to subscribe. Take a look at the playlist. I went over Frisson Sensate, Symphony Control, Empathy, and Ice Mastery. And if you've seen that, you know what he's going to be leveraging with his build, which I'm not going to spoil right this second. But, with this guy, he's going to be bringing a lot of interesting, unique stuff, is all I really want to say at this point. But he is, other than that, remarkable because this is the guy who Kathy built. This is Kathy's build. Hey, who's Kathy? This is ChatGPT. So if you saw my series, Zero to Hero, I was using AI, ChatGPT, to create a character. And the process was a bit painstaking, I gotta admit. But once I figured out I had to use a sort of binary choose your own adventure selection process with Kathy, it worked out pretty well. And so I've got him fully, level to 50, incarnated, kitted out with all of the IO sets that Kathy and I went through and figured out for him. So I'm going to be presenting his build when we get to that portion of the series. But for right now, just FYI, this is an AI designed, human assisted character. Ankh is all me. This is all human right here. No AI insights whatsoever with this guy. So it'll be an interesting versus this time around. Not only do we have the defender and the controller, but we have a human design only versus a Kathy designed, human supplemented character build. And so some of the build choices that you'll see are a little bit questionable. Stuff that, as Kathy was, I guess, insisting on it, I was like, all right, if you're sure, but I went with it. I went with what she wanted to do in the order she wanted to do it. And I only pushed back on a few things that just were because usually it was because she didn't know what the power actually did or thought there was a different power or something like that and made a choice based upon just erroneous information that she was getting from wherever she was getting it from. But if she was like, hey, I want to use this power, blah, 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 I was like, okay, that's fine. And I did nix a couple other things just were like, hey, we're not going to take the res or something like that. I would specifically tell her things we weren't going to do. But other than that, it was just free reign for her. All right, so those are my two challengers. So I want to do now, of course, is go through each of them and discuss their secondary or their primary set that we're complementing the empathy with. So first is Ankh. We just talked about empathy, and we saw that for the most part, the sets are identical with the exception of the healing strength, really. And fortitude has a slight difference. But then Water Blast and Soul Mastery, what's going on with those two? The idea behind this guy is he's this mummy, spirit, I guess, or he's a living guy. I almost think he kind of Moon Knight-ish. Lord of the Rapt. He's empowered by Ra, the sun god. And so he is able to use water, but I have it re-flavored and colored as sand blasting. So think like Sandman. And then he's got bursts of radiant vitality. So his empathy is like the sun and radiant power bursting energy into his allies. And he is hunting down evil wizards. Maybe it's the Circle of Thorns. Maybe it's some Midnighters, I don't know, who have plundered ancient tombs of the ancestors, magical relics they've stolen, and they're using it in some foul ritual magic. So he's come to Paragon, he's come to the Rogue Isles to set things right and get back that which was taken. That's his concept. Now let's take a look at Water Blast. Water Blast, this set, I don't think I've played it yet in any of these DEFCONs. Off the top of my head, I don't remember that I did. That's another thing with the DEFCONs that I'm trying to do is showcase not just a diversity of support sets, but also diversity of the blast sets for defenders, control sets for the controllers, so you can kind of see a bunch of different flavors and concepts. So yeah, there may be more logical thematic combinations out there, but I probably have done those in my a 50/50 showcase in 2020 rewind series that I've posted over the last couple years. So anyway, Water Blast, what's that? Use your command over water, duh. And you can use it to weaken or crush your foes with all the power of the tidal wave. Again, I'm redoing this all sand blasting. Some Water Blast powers allow the user to build tidal power, which can be released to strengthen some of the other blasts. So here is the sets we're looking at, or the lineup of stuff here. Go ahead and magnify this. All right, so here is Water Blast, and you can start to see what I'm going to be using here, at least guessing, as I go through what these things do. So we've got single target blast here. Single target blast here with Aqua Bolt and Hydro Blast. This is an AoE burst, targeted AoE. Whirlpool is a patch AoE. Tidal Forces, this is like a build-up aim type of power. And it's kind of got like a power boost-ish effect as well, but it's only for your own blasting, not for your specials of your controls and stuff. Dehydrate, this is like a specialty utility power, but it's single target and it's a heal. And the Water Jet is like your snipe-ish kind of power, but it's single target as well. It does have a quick recharge on it if you trigger it properly with your Tidal Forces, your Tidal Power. Steam Spray, there's your cone. Actually, I love this cone. I think it's probably the best one in the game. And then Geyser, this is a big old AoE. It's like the big brother of Water Burst. So you've got some good AoE kind of stuff that you can throw out there. 4 of your powers are going to damage multiple targets at the same time. Dehydrate's a nice utility self-heal. You got this, build-up-y aim type of power here. And then you got, 3 other damaging powers, with Water Jet being able to fire twice in rapid succession if you have your tidal power boosted up. So probably, I would say arguably, and I'm sure many of you out there would agree with me, Water Blast is probably the premier blast set out there, at least from the original live game. I'm not sure if the newer stuff that's come out since the Homecoming crew took over Like seismic blast, or storm blast might give it a run for its money. I don't know. I haven't done a head-to-head comparison, but if I were to sit here and say, hey, I need to make a defender blaster or whatever, somebody with range damage set, I mean, water blast is probably at the top of my list with most builds I can think of, just because of all the utility it has, all the different options it has, all the AoE. Then you got some cool debuffer you can do, like Aqua Bolt minus defense, Hydroblast minus speed, Water Burst minus speed and knockdown, Whirlpool minus speed minus defense. I think you can probably see where this is going. Dehydrate minus speed minus defense. You got the heal, Water Jet minus speed. You've got Steam Spray minus defense, and we got a different type of damage set power here, fire or damage type. Geyser, minus speed. Knock up also does some fire damage. All right, so we got a lot of minus speed. We got a decent chunk of minus defense, and we got some knockback, knockdown. Okay, these are all nice debuffs and some soft control that will make a nice partnership with a 100% buff set. So my empathy's all buff, right? Isn't really nothing going to help me other than the auras. So I needed a blast set that could take care of business and deliver the goods for me, especially the debuffery, the minus speed, the minus defense, because I don't have any in my primary set. And then some control is nice as well, because again, I don't have that with my primary here. So there you go. That is my reasoning why I really like Water Blast in general. And then for this particular set, or this combination, this build, I think you can see the beauty of what's going to happen here, or what I hopefully is going to happen here. All right, what I want to do though is take a look in more depth at more depth. You see what I did there? At what these powers, their numbers are. So let me go ahead and pull those up on City Data, and we'll also take a look at Soul Mastery to see how that fits in with this. Be right back. Alrighty, here we go. This is Water Blast for Defenders. Make sure if you're ever, trying to figure this out for yourself when you're going over to City Data that you look at the correct archetype, because there are different modifiers as you saw with the buff numbers for empathy. All right, so Aqua Bolt, here we go. Make sure I don't need PvP stuff on. All right, so I think that's all shut off, right? That's PvP only. Go away, I don't need PvP. All right, that got rid of it. Okay, so here we go. First thing is, I didn't mention this, but tidal power. This power gives you tidal power. So if you hit somebody with it, it's going to give you a point of tidal power. Now, what does tidal power do? It's a self buff, but it only affects some of your blasts, and specifically these 4. So as you're using some of your water blasts, or in my case, sand blasts, you're going to build tidal power, a stack of it, and I think it's 3 stacks is when you get special effects that activate. And what will happen is when you build up enough tidal power, the icon in your tray will get that signature gold ring around it, and that means it's ready to go. It's ready to discharge your tidal power. So Water Burst, Dehydrate, Water Jet, and Geyser will all get this effect if you build the stacks of tidal power, and then they will do extra stuff beyond what they are designed to do out of the box. So that's what you're trying to do if you care about those things, which I think you will when you see the effects are. So anyway, Aqua Bolt, it's going to give you, I think, a point of the tidal power. Other than that, it's going to deal some cold and smashing damage, so about 30 total out of the box with no slotting. And then here's the other thing that you want it for, at least for Ankh here, is a hefty debuff, 12.5% defense debuff. That's not too shabby, and it's for 8 seconds. So let's keep that in mind, 12.5%, 8 seconds of debuff. We're doing some damage, so we can use this to sort of soften up targets. Now, Hydroblast, similar kind of story. It's going to build up some of the tidal power if you hit somebody with it. And then it does cold damage. It does some smash. You got the mixed damage types. And then it has a slow effect. So this is the other thing you want to see. We've got 100% chance for debuffing jump height, run speed, flying speed, jumping speed. It also has a chance to knock back a target so you can lay somebody out with it, which is always nice. And then it applies the wet effect. And I'm still not 100% sure about this wet effect. I know it came out with Storm Blast. So I'm not sure what it's doing here in this set. So I don't know if wet has been expanded to other power sets at this point. I think in Storm Blast, it paints targets to make them more susceptible to secondary effects that the Storm Blast brings. Like, I think extra lightning strikes and stuff. But don't quote me on that. I think. But what's that doing in this other blast set? I don't know. So, color me confused. All right, so there you go. That is what you got with Hydro Blast. And if you know out there what that wet is all about here, please comment below. Water Burst, another blast here. Again, check this out. The other thing I want to kind of point out that's nice is I'm a big fan of power sets that allow you to slot multiple different sets. So not only do you get, your typical blasting kind of sets and the Defender ATO sets and stuff, you also get utility sets like slows and knockback on a lot of these. And you can look at those other sets because, yeah, while they may not have the raw damage you can get from, let's say, the targeted AoE sets, they do have some good bonuses in the KB and the slow sets that can, make up for losing out on some of your damage. Plus, you can do more slowing, more knocking back. So anyway, Water Burst, targeted AoE, minus speed, knockdown, applies the wet, applies the minus, it drains tidal power. So here's what it says. So you cause water to violently explode from beneath your target's feet, blasting all foes with freezing cold water. So therefore, it's going to do the cold and the smash damage combo. And their movement speed is going to be reduced, and they may be knocked down. So we're going to have penalty to movement. We're going to have knockdown as well. And then it consumes all your tidal power. And when it does that, it's going to deal additional cold damage. So you're going to see the extra cold damage here. And I'm not exactly sure which one is which. If one's the initial burst and then the other one starts to tick cold damage. But anyway, you're doing some more DOT of cold damage. And then the chance for knockdown is even higher. If you have 3 stacks of the tidal power, you're going to have a 100% chance to knock the targets down. So I like to juice up my water burst and then just unload so I get a guaranteed knockback on that thing, or knockdown. So that's what you're seeing here with these other numbers. The magnitude of the knockback gets higher and higher as you go, to where you're going to be knocking people flying. You're going to be doing the damage. You can do the extra DOT. And it's not a shabby radius. It's not the biggest radius, 15 feet, but that's not bad. Endurance a little bit high, 15, so you got to be careful on that. You don't to spam these powers because you will run out of juice, so careful. Range is great, 80-foot range on this power. I want to kind of compare that to the other powers. Aqua Bolt's range was, 80 feet as well, so I want to make sure these are the same. All right, so right now you got all these 80-foot range powers, okay? So they're all in the same zone. You don't have to start thinking about it. Whirlpool, this power, I like it, but I swear it doesn't do what it's not as good as it should be, in my opinion. So location, AoE, you drop a patch, right? The damage isn't that great, but it's got some good effects. So you got the DOT cold damage. You're going to do minus speed, minus defense. Again, we're applying the wet effect, which, I'm not 100% sure what the heck that is. We'll see if we can look that up. And then you get the tidal power. So it's also give you tidal power. I forget how much it's going to give you, but it will grant you that. But it summons this little pseudo pet, Whirlpool, and here it is. You're going to do 2.5 cold damage, and then you're going to have a minus 350% run speed. It says it's that, but I swear things still get out of this pretty easily because there's sort of like a fear effect or something like that. They try to get away from it. And then you got a 10% debuff of the defense. You're jacking up flying speed. You're messing up their jump height, the run speed, right? Everything is getting trashed by this power, their movement speeds. So they will try to crawl their way out of it as you're doing it. But as I said, there's kind of like a fear effect, a scatter. They want to get away from it. It's this avoid effect. That's what it is, right? So it's going to pulse this avoid effect. They want to leave and get away as far as they can, and they will scatter with this thing. So you want to try to figure out a way to get people not to run. So I think you can slot it for slow as an example, or team it up with some immobilize or the knockbacks or the knockups from your other powers will help with that sort of thing. So that's the main thing, right? It's going to do ticks of damage and slow people down. And it doesn't say anything about what the hell the wet stuff does, which is ridiculous here. And I want to see something else. It doesn't say how many ticks of the cold damage it does. I know it does more than just 2.5. It doesn't say what's the duration here. Duration of this thing. Does it say how long this thing lasts? Seconds. No. What about over here? No. What about here? Duration. 15 seconds here. So it's probably ticking every second, roughly. So you're going to get some damage every second. I don't know the exact tick time on this stupid thing. 15 seconds, whirlpool. 1.5 seconds, maybe. So maybe it's 10 ticks. I don't know. It's going to do extra damage, so trust me on that. That's whirlpool. So right here, out of your first four, you got a couple single targets and 2 AoEs. So it's a really nice early set. Then you get your to hit and your damage with tidal forces. The other thing, so here's the other thing it does. Is it gives you 3 stacks of tidal power. So that's the big reason for me to want to take this thing. Yeah, damage and to hit is nice, but right here, it's going to give you the tidal power of 3 stacks. So it's immediately going to fill your pool and cause those 4 powers to start glowing, and then you have your choice to start unloading with them. So if you can get some good recharge on this power, 90 seconds is what it is out of the box. Get it down to, I don't know, 45 seconds or something like that. It lasts for 10 seconds. But once you can get this thing recharging and you're clicking it multiple times, hopefully during a fight, you're going to be stacking up those tidal powers, plus you're building your tidal power with your other stuff. It's a nice way to get a big exploding opener power. Then you start to build your stacks again with your other attacks. Build another big boomer, and then hopefully by the time the fight's rolling or running down, you got your tidal forces again ready to click, and you can hammer them a third time if need be. Dehydrate, utility power, heal. Look at all the different sets it takes. You can slot it for damage, you can slot it for healing, you can slot it for defense debuff. There's lots of options here. More cold damage, more minus speed, more minus defense, healing over time. It's multiple useful power. You got to take this one, I think, especially if you're more of a squishy type and you don't have like your own heal, or in a case like empathy, while I do have my own heal, I've only got that one thing. So this gives me another option to kind of stay alive, is this self heal here. So cold smashing damage combo. You get the tidal power thing. You're going to get another 12.5% defense. So we got 12.5 from the one hydro bolt or whatever it was, plus this 12.5, and whirlpool had, let me double check on whirlpool again. What was whirlpool's minus defense? Because we got 25 right now. Whirlpool is giving us another 10, so now we're up to 35 defense debuff total with these powers stacking together. So get some more minus defense going. So we got upwards of 60 at this point. And then you're going to get the healing, the minus speed. Where is the minus speed? Minus speed, 25%. Healing, here it is, 28. And it ticks 3 times, so every second for 3.1 seconds. So you're going to get back, if you don't slot it all, roughly 90 HP. If you slot it for some healing, you can double that effectively. So pretty good in combination with your healing aura, your regeneration aura, and then if you get any other ways to get some extra heals, regen from slots and power sets and stuff, that'll be the way to go. All right, what else can we talk about? Dehydrate, water jet. This is your big, hitter power. It's kind of like a snipe, although it's only got an 80-foot range. But you can do a nice double tap on this one. So here's what it's talking about: water jet fast. If you get this thing juiced up with tidal power, it'll have an auto refire. So if you have 3 tidal powers, when you activate this, you can get a fast reset on it and fire again. So you're going to hit once, boom, and it recharges, boom again. So it's a nice way to, let's say that's your opener. You can hit your tidal forces to fill up your bar, and you can blam, blam twice in a row on a hard target and drill the thing. Range is again 80 feet, so it's nothing great about that. But I like that you can do the bam bam on it. It's gonna slow again. We got more minus speed that we can start stacking on enemies. So nice triple whammy on that. All right, then we got steam spray. Like I said, I really like this cone. It says it's 40 feet, but I think the arc on this thing is huge. If I'm not, yeah, 50-degree arc. This got to be one of the widest arcs out there. The only one I can think might be wider is Size Scream. I'm gonna go take a look. Defenders. Can we do Defender Ranged? Psychic Blast. Size Scream. What's the arc in a 60-foot range? 30-degree arc. So yeah, this is wider than that. I can't think of anything that's wider. So size length, but it's the girth. Yeah, it's wider with steam spray. So it's nice for that. And it does your first non-cold smash damage. It gives you fire damage. You have another option for damage types. Range a little bit lackluster, but you know, just point blank range. Some fools with that 50-degree arc. You can drill a whole bunch of people with it. And more tidal power generation for that. It also has minus defense, 12.5%. So now we're up to 72.5% defense. We can debuff pretty easily. Last power in your suite of powers here is another fire damaging massive AoE power this thing does. Let's see, what's the range on this thing? Radius is 25-foot radius, out 80 feet. So that's huge range, massive explosion of damage. They're taking fire damage. It does cost 20 endurance, so it's not cheap. Recharge is a little bit up there at 125, but just huge exploding power. Love this thing. You gotta take it. It's probably one of the best sort of nukes in the game. I mean, it's up there with, I don't even know. Pick another nuke that you like. It's probably as good as that, if not better, just because you get the knockback. All right, so you got the other stuff. You got where the heck is it? Knock up, right? 1.5. It's got a chance to stun. What else does this thing do? It's got the slow effect on it as well. The tidal power, when it unloads, it does the extra burst. Yeah, here's, check this out. So geyser consumes all the tidal power. Both the initial damage and damage over time portions will be increased and have the scaling chance to disorient for each stack of tidal power. So it gets more and more stunning the more stacks you've got. If you got 3 stacks, there's a 100% chance to stun with this thing. So this is a great opening power. You hit tidal forces to build your stacks immediately, and they just destroy the enemy with this freaking power. I loved like triple tap with this water burst, and then if you have like a nuke from your incarnates like Pyronic, it's just devastating, or Ionic. It just destroy people. That's Geyser. Beautiful power sets. Love it, love it, love it. So hey, looking good for Ankh so far, right? He's got great damaging range set. It's got lots of utility, the self-heal, a bunch of minus defense, a bunch of minus speed, a bunch of knockback. You got some stunning in here. You got the ability to augment it and boost it up with tidal forces. So it's a great overall awesome blast set, I think, makes the humdrum of Empathy worth it, because it really allows me with this build, I think, to flip a switch is what I would call it. And I love kind of playing a defender like this, where you can go, you know, total buff mode, Empathy, just kind of sitting back, keeping everybody alive, keeping them healed, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, either A, I'm getting tired of this, I want to go offense, or, man, we're in trouble. And then, boom, you go full-on water mode and just start unleashing hell on these people. All right, let's move on to the contender, or pretender, Frisson Sensate, my controller, Empathy. Symphony, Empathy, Ice Mastery, concept, I already went over this in the Zero to Hero video, but a quick recap. Famous soft rock superstar. He gained power through abuse of designer neuropharmaceuticals, synthesized using cerebral spinal fluid from Praetorian seers from the network that was smuggled over to Primal Earth. His vocal talent has been enhanced to where his songs are able to amplify the emotions of his listeners, bringing them euphoria and elevating them to heights of passion. So that empathy healing side of things. And then to those who peddle the street drugs on unsuspecting addicts like himself, his voice delivers a sharp rebuke wrapped in paranoia and fear. So that's like his symphony controls. So a combination of those two sets is this Michael Bolton-esque rock star, pop star looking guy that your mom goes to the concerts. All right, let's go over symphony control and take a deeper. Now I'm not going to get super duper, like if you want to know more about his character concept, you can go check out the Zero to Hero. I'm going to focus mostly on the numbers here, and then we'll get into his official build once we get around to talking about when he's going to start his own tests, solo tests. But here is the summary of the set on the wiki. So we have symphony control. Use the power of music to captivate and control the spirits of your enemies. Most of your symphonic abilities influence the mind of your enemies, causing psionic damage. This is kind of the secret sauce of this build, because empathy on a controller is, I think, even rougher than on a defender, because at least defender you get a blast set you can unload with. With controllers, you're relying upon your control set, which doesn't have as much raw damage output as a defender's blast set does. But especially depending on which control set you take. But the cool thing with symphony control, for those of you who haven't played it yet, is this thing right here. Most of your abilities, so most of these controls are gonna do damage psionic. Now, if you're fighting robots, it's not the greatest thing, but most of everything here is doing damage, right? Damage, right? Boom, boom, boom. Everything's doing damage except for Chords of Despair, and your pet does damage, of course. So 8 out of 9 of your powers is gonna do damage. That's awesome for a control set, especially when we have containment boosting all this stuff, and especially now that containment is even more boosted by different types of controls given the last patch we just had. So we're going to see a lot more containment out of this guy than you saw with some of my previous controllers. So he should be able to lay it down. I don't know raw damage compared to what I think Ankh can lay down, but I think this will be pretty good. The other thing that's special about it, let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better, is the area effect that you can cover with this. We have not just all the damage, but we have a cone, a cone, a cone, a cone, and an AoE. So we have 5 of our powers are going to hit multiple targets with control and with damage. So I really leaned into the cones with this character, which kind of gets into some of my other choices that I did for his build overall. And when I was working with Kathy on the design of this guy, that was one of the things I definitely told her to focus on is, hey, you want to focus on cones and getting as many as you can. So when we get to his build, you'll see the total number that we have and what damage and all the other stuff he's to be able to muster. But that's the overall idea with this guy, is just going cone crazy, lots of controls, a lot of stuff able to, oh, check this, the other thing you're going to get out of this thing. So just like with water, we've got some minus speed thrown in here, some minus recharge, some minus speed. So we've got 3 of these powers have some debuff on top of their controlling abilities. And again, they're all going to stack and kind of leverage, immobilize, right? Speed, recharge. This guy's a cone. So if I can maybe get some more of this in the build somehow, I can have not just the controls, I get some debuffs, and I got lots of damage, and I'm hitting multiple targets because of all the cones. So he should be devastating, I think. So if I would have had to play An empathy controller, which I would never do in a million years, when Symphony Control came out, and when I was thinking of, hey, empathy for this particular series here, DEFCON 2 Aftermath, I needed, this was like a perfect union, I guess. Kind of boring old, buff everybody else, empathy, but now I got a high damaging potential, massive layering controls, debuffs, AoE, cone, whatever. Symphony Control. Beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Ankh's control set. Or not Ankh, Frisson Symphony Control. All right, so here is Symphony Control. I'm going to go into the numbers on most of these powers here just to kind of look and see what they're going to do. I'm not going to get super duper in the weeds on it though. So let's go ahead and check this out. So Hymn of Dissonance, this is your single target hold, standard, kind of controller, level 1, level 2 pickup. And you get a hold that is potentially going to proc like an over control here, so you can get the mag 3 out of the box up to mag 4 and hold the boss with it. You're getting the 30 some odd damage. You're also going to have a minus recharge on it, debuff, so it's nice. Minus 25%, that's pretty chunky. And 18 seconds, a good duration. And then the other interesting thing is that your control powers will proc, so to speak, this grant power to your reverberant pet. So if you throw out Hymn, it grants your pet the Hymn of Dissonance. Now it's not as strong as far as the mag goes. It's mag 2, 11-second holds. It's like half strength essentially. But here's the other interesting thing is it also has that debuff. But check out the damage. The damage is double what your hold was doing. So go back to your hold. Your hold is 30-ish. This thing's hold is 60 damage. 25% recharge, 25% recharge. So you can get like a 50% recharge debuff if you hit the same target. And then you're potentially getting 22 second hold and a 16-second. This thing is then throwing out an 11-second mag too. So hypothetically, you could get a mag 6 hold for 11 seconds and deal like 100 damage and minus 50% recharge if you're focusing on a single target with you and your pet. Let's say you're down to a boss or something like that. So that's a pretty sizable chunk of control and debuff there. Melodic Binding, this is your other single target attack you can take at level 1, level 2, immobilize. Same thing, it's going to grant that power to your reverberant. It's going to be a little bit weaker. It's going to debuff, in this case, movement speeds. Also, I'm noticing here that it prevents knockback, so that's interesting because if you have any other powers that do knockback, if you hit them with a single target immobilize, it's going to prevent them from getting knocked back. Mag 4 immobilize is enough to immobilize a boss right out of the gate. Potentially mag 5, you're doing 30 some odd points of side damage just like your single target hold. And then your pet is going to do the same penalty to movement speed, 37.5. The same minus knockback, but the damage is again more. You're looking at 45, 46 when this was 31 over here. So it's about 50% stronger damage. And the immobilize is 2. So you can immobilize 7 on a single target. I don't know if that's enough to immobilize an elite boss, but it's probably damn close. I don't know what elite boss's immobilize resistance is. I know bosses are 4 and so are arch villains, but I don't know about elite bosses if it's higher than that. Anyway, boom, boom, 1-2 punch, decent chunks of damage, especially if it's you and your reverberant pounding the same guy twice. You've stacked 2 recharges, 2 minus speeds, holds and immobilizes. They're getting punished already. Then you throw out your cone, Area of Stasis, your first one. So this is another one of these, kind of standard setups of controller, powers. Level 4 pick or whatever is your third attack, a cone or AoE immobilize. Sets up your containment, although containment's easier to set up now. It's also going to grant this to your pet. You're going to get more minus movement speed. It also seems to have a minus knockback to it, which is, again, interesting. And then you've got Mag 4 potential immobilize. You're doing about 15-ish damage, so it's about half the strength damage of your single target immobilize, but you're hitting multiple targets. The cone is 60-foot radius in a 60-degree arc. That's disgusting. It's just ridiculous. 13 endurance. So you can hit a bunch of dudes. Target cap is 16. Come on. Bam. So you're mobilizing a crap out of stuff with those. 1, 2, 3, right? Impassioned Serenade. This is a confuse. It's another. Is this a single target? Let me see. Target your serenade your target with impassioned song. Fight for yeah. So it is a single target. I thought it was a AOE confuse, but anyway, single target confuse. Blah blah blah. You're doing damage is the other thing. So just gotta be careful on this one because it will trigger damage, which is gonna trigger aggro. Probably on allies. So yeah, you can confuse the dude, but then his allies are going to be triggered to kill you. So this is not like this isn't your mama's mind control confuse here where you can just confuse and watch them kill each other. All right, so damage is not huge, but it does tick. It's one every 1 second for 30 seconds. So you're getting 30 ticks times the 1. So you're looking at 36 damage. So that's actually a decent chunk of damage you're getting out of this thing. I'd almost see this as an attack rather than as a control. Right? Screw the confuse, because you can also throw damage proc. I think confusion has a damage proc in it. Throw contagious confusion so it jumps to other targets while your guy you just blasted is getting hit with it. Dreadful Discord. We've got a Cone Fear. Everybody loves Cone Fears. Let's see, 15 psi damage. What's the range on this thing? 70-foot range, 45-degree angle. Pfft, please. Dude, this is gross. Mag 3 Fear for 28 seconds. Potentially 18 seconds of Mag 4 Fear. Bam. Bam. It's over. Then your pet's going to throw. What's the pet's damage and stuff? Pet's damage is 8. The mag control is 2. 6 mag fear, anybody? If those two things hit. And that, by the way, are they throwing out cones as well? Yeah, at least according to this. Wow. So they're doing a cone attack on top of your cone attack. So reverberant is freaking powerful. I didn't realize just how good it is. I need to start playing Frisson like a boss, because I could use all my empathy to keep his pets going, and then they're just devastating people. The only problem with this that I can see, at least from an empathy standpoint, is, and I don't know if this is how it works, but I believe your attack triggers the reverberance response. And what I think that means, if that's the case, is that if you don't attack, your reverb either locks into what it did last and just keeps doing that, or let's say you hadn't attacked at all at this point, it might not attack at all. It might just sit there. I don't know. Those of you guys who have more experience with Symphony, is that true? If you just walk into a map and don't do anything, and follow your teammates, does your reverberate just sit there too? Or does it respond with some default attack? I don't know. But I'm just thinking that if you're locked into buffing and healing, your reverberant might be kind of either limited by what it's going to do, only attacking, let's say, a single target immobilized or something, or it might not do anything at all in cases where you just haven't had a chance to attack yet with a control. So that could be an issue. All right, that's Dreadful Discord. Now we got Enfeebling Lullaby, another cone. This is your sleep. Again, it really doesn't matter the sleep because you got a nice debuff here, minus damage. You've also got damage you're doing. So let's take a look at the numbers. And your reverb's going to do it. So we're doing 6 psi damage. Not a ton of psi damage, but you also have the deep sleep thing now, which I'm not even 100% sure how that works yet. But you get a chance to do extra sleep or whatever, deep sleep that they call it. Then you're debuffing 20% damage, so that's a nice defensive power. So you can open with this attack, sleep your enemies, debuff their damage for 15 seconds, and then start pounding on them again. 70-foot range, 45-degree arc. These cones are just disgusting. Confounding Chant. This is your stunning cone attack. What's this one going to do? Let's see, is the range same thing? Yeah, 70-foot range, 45 degrees. Not a ton of damage. What, 3.8? Well, actually, no. That's just going to add up. Check this out. 3.8 damage every second for 19 seconds or whatever. So take this times 19. So whatever that is, a lot. 4 times 20 would be 80 damage. So it's a little bit less than 80. 70 some damage, let's say. 70 damage to everybody. That's if you don't slot it for damage at all. And you're hitting up to 16 targets with this thing. So that's a good chunk of damage. I don't know if there's any damage procs for stuns, but there are certainly procs for damage in your AoE sets. But yeah, you spam the crap out of this thing too. And that's the other thing. You don't even need to like spam the same attack. You can just sit here and lather, rinse, repeat these cones. Immobilize, fear, sleep, stun, and just keep cycling through them. Because I don't think the recharges are that long either. Recharge 90 seconds. It's not bad. 90 seconds because you're going to get that down to like 45. 45 seconds with your sleep. Your fears recharge is 40 seconds. Wish she's a little more standardized here. What's my other one? Arya's stasis recharge is 8 seconds. So you're spamming the crap out of that one. So Arya is going to hit. Then you hit him with the other 3. Then you hit him with Arya. Then Enfeebling Lullaby is up by then. Then you hit him with Arya again at that point. And then maybe one of your other things is up. So you can probably hit with all 4 of your cones. Arya 4 times. Dreadful. I'm sorry, Enfeebling twice. Dreadful once. Confounding once. I mean, it's abusing people. And Reverberance throwing his crap out. Boom, boom, boom. So I think that's another thing. He's going to be very switch flipping. I think just like Ankh is going to be. I think Ankh is going to flip a switch between, all right, I'm buffing with empathy, and then pow, just go off with his water attacks. And I think you can kind of see the same thing here. This is what I really designed these empaths to do. You know, we're going to have Frisson buffing, and all of a sudden, bam, he's just going to unload with cone, and just destroy enemies. So buff his teammates, get them in good shape, and then go to town on the enemy. The only thing that's a problem is if you throw him off his rhythm, like his allies start taking a gobs of damage, and he's trying to heal him and chase him around and everything else, that'll throw it off and cause a problem. All right, Chords of Despair. Here's your targeted non-cone AoE. And this is, let's see, we got a 20-foot radius. What's the range? 80-foot range. So is this a targeted AoE? So yeah, it looks like you target somebody with it 80 feet away. You hit them and then it explodes in a 25-foot radius around them. Up to 16 targets total can be held. Mag 3 with a Mag 1, so potentially Mag 4. Reverberant gets this thing too. It's going to throw out a Mag 2 hold. That's just abusive. Man, this is a lot of control you can throw out. This guy should not have any problems controlling. I don't even think you need to slot for control. You could just slot for damage with this thing and go to town. And maybe get the control boosting from your incarnates or something like that. Or some of the special procs like, you know, +2 mag with lockdowns or something. I don't know. Control would be great. The control hybrid, because that gives you the +1 mag boosting on the, I think it's on the core side. All right, anyway, and then Reverberant, I already pretty much told you what it does, right? It's going to take all of your stuff and then repeat it back. Other than that, it's got some damage resistance, 60% damage resistance to smash lethal. Other than that, 40% for elemental stuff. So not bad. It's kind of tanky, especially if you boost it up with some buffs. Well, there you go. That is Symphony Control for our good friend Frisson. So here we go. The question, of course, is, well, who is going to win this thing? And we're going to, what I did at this point is I took it and I threw it to Kathy to give me some thoughts on it. So here's what she says. That's what she said. Ankh. His combination of empathy with Water Blast brings high sustain range supporter who empowers allies and disrupts enemies from afar. Well, yeah, this is true. Range support, yep. And he can do everything from a distance. So he definitely wants to hang back. Empathy, powerful team buffs, fortitude, clear mind, adrenaline boost, healing auras, enabling allies before engagement. I think this is the key right here, is buff before you move, especially with empathy. You got to get like at least a couple of those buffs, the auras together. But then at that point, you need to buff and move. You have to be able to keep up with your teammates and not be screaming for them to come to you. Nobody's going to do that. Water Blast, great AoE, minus defense, minus speed, some knockback, some soft control. Also, got some stun in there. I think that's going to be a nice combo. The self heal, don't forget that. And then Soul Mastery, right? You got some survivability with Dark Embrace. You got Power Boost is going to be huge. The Hold from Soulstorm. Those are all going to combine to give you some more control, more buff, bunch of blast with some debuff. I think he's a very well-rounded healer. So expect strong team empowerment at the spawn point, followed by consistent range damage, reactive buffing, and minor control. His effectiveness rises with team coordination. Yeah, this is for sure. But his solo mitigation repositioning tools are limited. So if he gets isolated, is going to be doomed. He doesn't have much for himself. So he's got to stay with his team. His team's got to stay with him. He can buff them to the gills, and he can throw it out if he need, when he's not gonna when needed. He will be needed to do it, but he needs some tanking. He needs somebody to keep shit off of him. All right, and then our other contestant here is our good friend. Get myself out of the way. Frisson. What's Kathy saying here? Frisson, his combo, Empathy with Symphony. What do we got here? Tempo-driven controller who mixes ally boosts with layered AoE disruption. Yeah, layered is the word. Symphony control. Widespread minus recharge, some minus speed, some minus damage effects. Those themselves aren't widespread, but they're there. But widespread, fear, sleep, stun, confuse, a lot of cones. And the Echo Pet is huge, is mirroring that. Crowd control redundancy, rhythmic field disruption. So he should be able to disrupt. I think as long as they're in front of him, he's good, right? If he can keep the enemy in front, if this is him, and he's got the enemy over here, he's good, man. He's going to just cone the shit out of him. If things start breaking loose, though, and swinging around, he's got to throw a cone over here and throw a cone over here and try to position, he's going to have a problem, too. Empathy, he's got the same core buffs. This is true. A little bit weaker, but not much. But it's going to require more active positioning and multitasking. That's the Achilles heel of these controllers. Because if you get locked into buff bitch mode and you're constantly just throwing out support and you can't focus on your controls, you're in trouble. If you have to move and chase somebody to go heal them and get out of range of your cones, you're in trouble. Ice Mastery is going to reinforce his cone pressure. You got Frost Breath thrown in there. You got some single target DPS Ice Blast. You got some personal survival tools with Ice Armor. I think both these guys are going to be squishy AF. They do not have a lot of self-protection. You got a shield, and that's about it. You got controls on one side, a lot of them, which is going to definitely help. And then on Ankh's side of the ledger, you got just more blasty damage. Some knockups are going to be required to be just popping. So expect Frisson to lead suppression through control chaining while layering Empathy's benefits. His versatility is high through cone reliance and mid-range exposure. Though his cone resilience and mid-range exposure demands sharp execution. Yeah, positioning is going to be absolutely critical. And if you saw the video I put together with Gir Falcon, the problem with cones is that, or at least the problem with positioning, because in that video, and if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out on my channel, but I was showing that with Gir, my defender, Cold, he was standing behind the tank, which is, hey, what you want to do, but the enemy was using a lot of cone attacks, and so I was getting a lot of not friendly fire, but overblasting here that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to take, obviously. But with my cones, I have to rely upon my positioning, so I need to be coning right back at him. So that is going to cause a potential risk for him that Ankh isn't going to have to worry about it because he only has one cone. Everything else is big AoEs he can blast from the edges. All right, interesting. All right, so that was Kathy's kind of side by side. And then we got to the question of, hey, what do you think's going to happen? And here's what she's predicting. She's predicting Frisson is going to win. And here are the main categories that I'm going to analyze the data, which is what I just did with the cold domination test. I'm going to be looking at survivability. That's your self staying alive. Risk, allies dying. Resilience is how much damage you're taking. Avoidance is how many times you're getting hit. Provisioning is your buffing, healing, and those types of support. Lethality, that's how many foes you're killing. Threat, that's how much damage you're dealing. Disruption is how much control you're throwing out there to keep the enemy on their heels. And efficiency, that's your contribution of just offense versus defense, as well as what your pets are doing. So here's what Kathy's predicting, that survivability favors Frisson because now if he takes hibernate, he'll have full invulnerability. I don't want to spoil his build yet, but if he takes it, this is true. Crowd control slows down incoming bursts. That is for sure. And ice armor gives you some passive defense. Okay, so if you can crowd control, slow stuff down, limit the amount of incoming, then your defenses can kick off and protect you better. And then if stuff still is, really dangerous, you can always hibernate. This is true. We don't have that with Ankh. He doesn't have all that crowd control. He doesn't have defense. He's got resistance, and he doesn't have hibernate. Risk, even as far as to allies. Ankh's pre-buffs are going to prevent danger. Frisson is going to suppress threats with crowd control, but may delay initial buffs. Not necessarily. I think, he's also going to buff initially. He doesn't have to be as buffy mid-fight. He shouldn't have to heal as much. He should be focusing more on his crowd controls. Resilience, frozen armor, hibernate, crowd control, layering, reduce incoming damage. So thanks Frisson. Avoidance, Ankh. He's going to stay at range. No need to enter the fray. This is true. Frisson's cones are going to push him into the mid-range exposure. Yeah, I think that is sort of a wild card here. It's how close do you got to get. Provisioning, even buffs. Both of them have it. Ankh is buffing at range. Frisson is going to be balancing buffs with responsibilities for crowd control. That's going to be the question. Does he get too focused on this and doesn't do this, or gets too focused on this and doesn't do that? Arguably, Ankh may run on the same thing, but I think he's going to be more switchy, where he doesn't, he's going to buff, and once the buffs are out, he's going to blast. He's not going to have to worry about somebody's escaping containment. I need to control them. Lethality, Ankh, just more firepower, probably because of water blast, the cones, the AoE, yep. Ankh, more threat, because again, he's got damage from water blast, power boost. This is not power boost. Tidal forces would be the bigger DPS. Power boost is going to help with his other stuff. Frisson is going to have some of the ice mastery stuff, but I don't know about this. I mean, all those cone controls, this could be closer to a draw. We'll see. Disruption, of course, controls are going to lean heavily towards the controller, but I don't think you can rule out the controls that I do have available from Ankh. I mean, those knock-ups are going to be pretty severe. He does have some stunning, does have a hold that he can throw out there. So he does have probably a bit more than what you saw with Jir Falcon. And then efficiency, Frisson, strong contribution while reducing incoming damage. That's probably true. I mean, probably going to put out a lot of damage. This is true. Probably going to reduce a lot of incoming. I think that's also true. I think this last statement is maybe the most true, is that Frisson's probably less reliant on the allies for survivability. He's got his pets. He's got his buffs. He's got his controls. He can probably hang in there more easily than Ankh, who's going to need to have somebody keep the enemies off him, because as he's blasting, he's going to be very vulnerable outside of being able to knock things up. But again, we'll have to see. So here's what Kathy's conclusion, what she's predicting is going to happen. Frisson wins because layered control, defensive tools, disruption-centric playstyle offers stronger battlefield mitigation and personal safety without requiring external support. So she's really leaning into this, that he doesn't need the team to keep him alive. Ankh excels at front-loaded ally empowerment. Again, I don't necessarily think it's front-loaded. I think they both can do it. In range damage. This is true. He's definitely got this. Frisson's suppression of enemy output reduces overall team risk over time. That, my friends, may be the big true statement there. It's just the suppression of the control. That's what I've been seeing. All, you know, because here's what the question is, or at least the initial question is, defender buff percent versus controller crowd control mitigation. Are the buffs doing more or less than the crowd controls? That's what, you know, the argument is one way or the other. I haven't seen necessarily the buff percentages being different enough to matter, at least in the original test. Here, it's more cutting edge, so we'll see. But anyway, in tightly paced, high pressure missions like these 801s, mitigation translates into fewer defeats, steadier control, and better overall efficiency. All right, I mean, I can't disagree with anything that she just said there. I don't know that. I think she might be overlooking the firepower, though, that Ankh actually can deliver. I think he can put it out. I mean, if you thought Falcon was able to lay out some good damage numbers, I think Ankh is going to exceed. And anybody who is a fan of water control knows what, or water blast knows what I'm talking about. I think you can lay it down. And I think between tidal forces buffing and power boost buffing these attacks, their damage, their accuracy, their debuffing, the buffing, right? I think when we add these things together, you're going to see some good numbers flying. And, right, this is also going to help allies. That's something that, you know, self-reliant Frisson isn't going to be able to do. He doesn't have a way to spike his damage like this, or spike his controls, or spike his buffs and debuffs the way that Ankh can. So that's, I mean, just that raw firepower. He can just boost up and go to town. It'll be a good matchup, I think. So there you go. That's where we're at then. So we have a who will win scenario. Is it Ankh, Empathy, Water, Soul Defender, or is it Frisson Sensate, Symphony, Empathy, Ice Controller? You guys have to make up your own minds. I'm going to go and figure it out. I'm going to go and run some solo tests, and then I'm going to run some team tests, 801 style. I'm also going to go in depth on their build. So the next video, I'm going to be going either Ankh or Frisson, do their build, take you through the mids and what all I slotted and how I slotted it, look at the numbers, and then we're going to go ahead and do a solo test just to kind of look at tactics and strategies and show you what they can do. And then we'll fire up with some team action, some 5-mans, and go to town. But before we do that, we have to figure out which of these two lucky bastards is going first. Defender or controller. And we're going to do the old coin toss to figure this out. All right, here we are on flipcoin.com. I'm going to go ahead and click this. So here we'll do this. Heads. If it comes up heads, that's our defender, Ankh. If it comes up tails, that's our controller, Frisson Sensate. In round 1 of DEFCON Aftermath, we saw the controller go first. Let's see if that continues or not. Flip it. Tails. Controller is going first. Frisson Sensate. He's ready to rock and roll. He's going to bring the house down with his symphonic controls, his empathic love, and his chilling vibrations. All right, guys. Hopefully you got some cool information. You're excited about this like I am. So get yourselves ready. If you want to participate, you know what to do. You just leave a message down below, or if you're on the Best of the Worst Discord, you can post there. You can also go over to where I've got the this whole DEFCON series on the forums for Homecoming, and let me know if you're interested. Got to be level 50. Got to be incarnated and slotted and ready to go, though. Those are your main requirements. And you cannot be a supporter. You can't be a defender. You can't be a controller, corruptor, or mastermind. Anything else goes, though. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll check you out in Frisson Sensate's build and solo video coming up next. Later.